Today you're gonna hear me say something that you probably wouldn't expect me to say. Archon Prime was wrong. Those who know me know that my favorite character in Transformers is Quake. Today we're going to address his significance to the Combaticons and Megatron. In Escalation, you can play as Onslaught, Brawl, and Swindle on the map Downfall. We will come back to these three in a second. The fourth playable character here is none other than my boy Quake, and he is of just as much importance as the Combaticons to the lore, not just in Escalation, but the campaign as well. You see, in the campaign, Megatron goes on a rampage through Archon to reclaim the remains of Trypticon. Here he meets up with the Combaticons, which immediately combines into Bruticus. As Vortex and Blastoff can fly, they reach Megatron's location no problem. Onslaught, Brawl, and Swindle, however, are flown in by a dropship. From here, these three jump out and mass shift like nobody's business to start forming Bruticus. Onslaught, Brawl, and Swindle. The same three that you play as on Downfall. And if you look, the dropship they jump out of doesn't immediately crash. No, a fourth bot is on board and driving. But who? Who could possibly be aiding the Combaticons in Archon? Well, Quake, of course. To me, it only makes sense that Downfall takes place during Megatron's rampage for Trypticon. What I think Archon missed or overlooked is that while Downfall takes place in Archon, it is not during the War for Cybertron campaign. How he came to that conclusion is beyond me. The evidence is, to me, quite clear. The surrounding structures are very similar, the event fits perfectly with the timing of the story, the characters line up, and of course, this is Fall of Cybertron. Why would a map in Fall of Cybertron play out during War for Cybertron? There is literally no evidence for this, whatsoever. And to prove this even further, I will now break down the arguments that Archon provided. Archon mentions that this is Archon from before Trypticon crashes down into it. But Archon is a prosperous city, or well, it was. Not just some shack anywhere. No, it's a massive city and the Autobots' capital. Big enough to house Metroplex without almost anyone noticing. If Trypticon, for instance, crashed into the north of Archon, I'd like to argue that the south of Archon probably felt the tremors from his landing, but not much else. And to be clear, Trypticon didn't flatten all of Archon. Archon also argues that all of the Combaticons had met and formed their team before the War for Cybertron campaign. But if the Combaticons already exists by this time in the story, then why would Brawl be in charge of the Dark Energon bombers and not Onslaught? If the Combaticons already have been formed as of this point in time, I feel like Onslaught would be the one to relay Megatron's orders, not Brawl. Not just because Onslaught is the leader of the Combaticons, but also because he's a tactical genius. That's essentially his whole personality, a war tactic master. And to further prove this, why is Brawl separated from the rest of his team? If the Combaticons existed as a team, why didn't Vortex and Blastoff, for instance, join the attack on Trypticon Station? Because the Combaticons had not yet been formed. That happens between the games. Archon, while what you theorized would have been awesome, I'm sorry to say it, it's not true. Now, it's finally time to go back and talk some more about Quake. Where did he drive off to after dropping off Onslaught, Brawl, and Swindle? What happened to him? While he is never actually seen in the campaign, several dropships are. And as much as I would love to think he's still out there, yeah, probably not. This is a war after all. Not everyone makes it. If it indeed was Quake that drove the dropship, then just after dropping off the Combaticons, he probably went to pick up some other cons to transport. Maybe he aids in transporting Soundwave. Maybe he just left the dropship somewhere to join in on the carnage. He is a tank after all, and according to TF Wiki, a rather aggressive one. There is also the possibility that it wasn't Quake that drove the dropship. If so, then it is safe to assume that he's somewhere else keeping up the fight. Perhaps he had a last stand to ensure that Onslaught, Brawl, and Swindle got to the dropship. We don't exactly know, and maybe we never will. What is for certain, however, is that Downfall takes place not long before Bruticus aids Megatron in opening arguably the heaviest door on Cybertron. This has been my take on Quake from Fall of Cybertron, his role in the story, as well as an attempt at correcting Archon Prime. It's nothing personal, my friend, and I would love to discuss our conflicting beliefs. But until that day, Decepticons, rise up.